You don't belong here! You just ended your career!
She never belonged here!
Oh my God. That's Evelyn Carter.
Will you return to Crestfield? Respect should never require proof.
The slap cracked through the business class cabin like a gunshot. For one long second, nobody moved. Angela Brooks stood in the aisle with her hands still raised, her lips tight, her chest rising hard beneath her navy uniform. The amber cabin lights washed over her face, but there was no warmth in it, only certainty. The kind of certainty that comes from years of never being questioned. Evelyn Carter did not fall. She did not scream. She did not even lift a hand to defend herself. She simply stood there in her dark hoodie, wire rim glasses slightly crooked, one worn carry-on resting beside her shoes. Rain tapped against the oval windows of the private charter jet. Outside, the tarmac at Harrington Field shone black under the storm lights. Inside, the air felt sealed, expensive, and suddenly dangerous. A man near the front lowered his whiskey glass. His smile faded, but only halfway. The older couple across the aisle froze with their sparkling water untouched between them. A younger attendant, Lily Morgan, stood near the galley, with one hand over her mouth, her eyes wide. She knew what she had just seen. She also knew everyone in that cabin would soon decide whether they had seen it or not. Angela lowered her hand slowly. "You need to sit in the back," she said, her voice sharp and controlled. "Right now." Evelyn adjusted her glasses with 2 fingers. The movement was small, almost delicate. But everyone watched it. Then she looked at Angela, not with rage, not with fear, with something quieter, something worse. "You just made," Evelyn said, her voice barely above a whisper, "the most expensive mistake of your career." Angela blinked once. Her jaw tightened. The man with the whiskey gave a short laugh, as if he wanted the room to remember who was supposed to be embarrassed. "Come on," he muttered. "Let's not turn this into a courtroom." No one laughed with him. Evelyn did not look his way. She had learned long ago that cruelty often came dressed as confidence. It spoke first. It smiled too long. It expected the world to make room for it. And when it met silence, it mistook silence for weakness. Angela stepped closer. "Mom, if you continue disrupting this flight, I will have you removed from the aircraft." "I am not disrupting anything," Evelyn said. "You refused a crew instruction. I asked to sit in the seat I paid for." Angela's eyes moved over her again. The hoodie, the old carry-on, the plain sneakers damp from the rain, the absence of jewelry, the absence of a husband, an assistant, a security detail, anything Angela understood as proof of importance. That was the mistake, not the slap alone, the assumption before it, the decision that this woman could be handled roughly because she looked ordinary. Lily took a half step forward, then stopped. Angela shot her a look without turning her head fully. "Stay out of it." Lily swallowed, the cabin hummed. Engines idled beneath the floor. Somewhere near the cockpit, a switch clicked. Rain dragged silver lines down the windows. Evelyn picked up her carry-on. For a moment, Angela looked pleased, as if obedience had arrived at last. But Evelyn was not obeying. She was choosing. There is a difference. She walked toward the rear of the cabin with slow, steady steps. Every passenger watched her pass. No one offered help. No one said her name. They did not know it. Not yet. Angela returned to the front, smoothing her uniform, as if she could smooth the moment away with it. She offered the man with the whiskey another drink. Her voice softened for him. Her smile returned. At the back of the cabin, Evelyn sat by the window. She folded her hands in her lap. Her cheek was beginning to redden. Her breathing stayed even. Behind her calm eyes, a decision was already forming. Because Evelyn Carter was not a confused passenger. She was not a charity case. She was not someone who had wandered into the wrong cabin. She was the woman Crestfield Aviation had been waiting 7 months to impress. And by morning, they would understand exactly who they had chosen to humiliate. Evelyn had not dressed that way by accident. The hoodie was old but clean. The sneakers were scuffed but comfortable. The carry-on had a broken corner, and a handle that clicked every time she pulled it over tile. None of it matched the private terminal at Harrington Field, with its leather chairs, quiet lighting, and coffee served in white porcelain cups. That was exactly why she wore it. For years, Evelyn had learned more by arriving unnoticed than she ever learned in conference rooms. When people knew she was coming, they smiled too early. They polished their language. They sent the best employees to the front desk and hid the tired ones in the back. They became a version of themselves made for inspection. But ordinary people never saw that version. Ordinary people saw the truth, and Evelyn cared about the truth. 3 hours earlier, she had stood near a rain-streaked window in the commercial terminal at Harrington International, watching departure boards turn red one by one. Cancelled, delayed, cancelled. A coastal storm had rolled in fast, knocking out half the evening schedule and leaving hundreds of passengers stranded under fluorescent lights. A mother with 2 children sat on the floor beside a dead phone charger. An older man in a veteran's cap argued softly with a gate agent who looked close to tears. A businessman cursed into his phone as if the weather could be negotiated with. Evelyn watched all of it quietly. She could have called a staff member. She could have asked Joanne to reroute everything. She could have had a car take her home and postpone the morning meeting. Instead, she pulled out her phone and booked the next available seat on a private charter operated by Crestfield Aviation. Full fare, business class, seat 3A, no special request, no executive note, no name dropped, just Evelyn Carter. The name was enough for anyone who knew where to look. But most people did not look. They only glanced. That was the human failing she had built half her career around understanding. At the private terminal, the contrast hit immediately. The noise of the main airport disappeared behind glass doors. The carpet softened every footstep. A receptionist glanced up, saw the hoodie, and hesitated just long enough to tell the whole story before her mouth caught up with her training. "Can I help you?" she asked. Evelyn handed over her confirmation. The receptionist checked the screen. Her face changed. "Not much, just enough." "Yes, Miss Carter. The aircraft is ready." Evelyn nodded and walked toward the exit to the tarmac. No one offered to carry her bag. She did not ask. Outside, rain swept sideways under the floodlights. Wind pressed her hood flat against her forehead. The jet waited at the far end of the apron, ivory white, polished and silent, the Crestfield logo glowing near the tail. From the top of the stairs, Angela Brooks watched her approach. Angela had been with Crestfield for nearly a decade. She knew how to redress passengers, or she believed she did. A real private charter client arrived with confidence that announced itself. A watch, a coat, a certain kind of luggage, a certain kind of impatience. Evelyn had none of those things. So Angela made a decision before Evelyn reached the first step. Not a loud decision, a quiet one, the kind that ruins lives. Inside the cabin, warm light fell across wide leather seats and polished wood trim. Thomas Reed sat near the front, already holding a glass of whiskey, though the flight had not left the ground. He looked Evelyn over and smiled in a way that was not friendly. "You sure you're on the right plane, sweetheart?" Evelyn did not answer him. Angela held out her hand. "Boarding confirmation." Evelyn passed her phone over. Angela stared at the screen. The confirmation was clear. The payment had processed. The seat was assigned. Still, Angela kept looking, as if enough suspicion could turn a valid ticket into a fake one. "I'll need to verify this," Angela said. Evelyn looked at her calmly. "Of course." 3 minutes passed. Rain ticked against the windows. Thomas leaned back and lifted his glass. Some people see leather seats and get inspired. The older couple across the aisle looked down at their water glasses. Lily Morgan heard the comment from the galley. Her stomach tightened. She glanced at Angela, waiting for correction. None came. Angela returned with Evelyn's phone. "The booking appears to be in order," she said. "Appears." The word landed softly, but it carried weight. Evelyn took the phone back. Angela gestured toward the rear of the cabin. "Due to weight distribution, need you seated farther back." Evelyn held her gaze. "My seat is 3A. Angela's smile vanished. For the first time, the room felt smaller. "I would strongly suggest," Angela said under her breath, "that you not make this difficult." Evelyn
Step closer.
not threatening, not loud, simply present. My seat, she said, is 3A, and Angela's hand began to rise. Angela's hand rose so quickly that Lily almost thought she had imagined it. Then came the sound. Sharp, flat, final. Evelyn's head turned slightly to the side. Her glasses slipped down the bridge of her nose. One lens caught the amber cabin light and flashed white for half a second. The cabin seemed to lose all air. Thomas Reed stopped smiling. The older woman in resort clothes pressed one hand to her throat. Her husband stared at the carpet as if the pattern had suddenly become important. Lily stood frozen near the galley curtain. Her fingers curled around the edge of a tray. She was young enough to still believe training manuals meant something. De-escalation, passenger dignity, equal service. Those words had been printed in blue binders and repeated in morning briefings. But now, in the cabin where those words mattered most, no one said them. Angela lowered her hand. For the smallest moment, there was fear in her eyes. Not remorse. Fear. The fear of someone who had crossed a line and was already searching for a way to redraw it behind her. Evelyn reached up and straightened her glasses. Her cheek had begun to darken. She looked at Angela with a calm that made the room colder. "You just made the most expensive mistake of your career," she said. Angela's mouth tightened. "You will sit where I tell you to sit." The words came out too fast, too hard. They were not procedure. They were panic dressed as authority. Evelyn glanced past her, toward the cockpit door. "Is the captain aware you're handling passengers this way?" Angela leaned in, lowering her voice. "The captain trusts my judgment." That was true, and that was part of the problem. Captain Paul Whitman had been flying private charters for 22 years. He liked order. He liked punctuality. He liked crew members who solved problems before they reached him. Angela knew that. She had built her reputation on it. She could turn conflict into paperwork, humiliation into policy, and bias into something that sounded like safety. Thomas cleared his throat and lifted his whiskey again, trying to reclaim the room. "Look, no offense, but some of us have places to be. Can we get moving?" "No offense." The oldest disguise in the world. Evelyn finally looked at him. Just once. Thomas looked away first. Angela pointed toward the rear of the cabin. "Back row. Now." Lily's hand tightened around the tray until the edge pressed into her palm. She wanted to say something. Her mouth even opened. Angela saw it. "Lily," she said without turning, "reset the galley." The command landed like a door shutting. Lily stepped back. She hated herself for it before her shoes even moved. Evelyn picked up her carry-on and walked to the rear. The handle clicked once, twice, 3 times. Each sound was small, but in that silence it felt like a witness taking notes. As Evelyn passed Lily, their eyes met. There was no pleading in Evelyn's face. No request for rescue. That somehow made it worse. Lily saw a woman who had already understood exactly who everyone in that cabin was choosing to be. Evelyn sat in the last row by the window. She placed her bag at her feet, folded her hands, turned toward the rain-streaked glass. Angela exhaled and straightened her scarf. "All right," she said brightly, her voice now polished again. "Let's continue boarding checks." The performance resumed. That was the cruelest part. Thomas received another whiskey, this one in a crystal glass, with a linen napkin folded beneath it. The couple received sparkling water with lime. Angela called them by name. She laughed softly at something they said. She moved through the cabin with grace, warmth, and practiced attention. When she reached the back, the warmth vanished. She set a small plastic cup of water on Evelyn's armrest without looking at her. Not a word, not even the false courtesy of service. Evelyn did not touch it. The aircraft began to taxi. The engines deepened beneath the floor, a steady vibration moving through the seats. Rain blurred the runway lights into long yellow lines. Lily strapped herself into the jump seat near the galley, but her eyes kept drifting toward the back of the cabin. Something about Evelyn bothered her. Not in the way Angela was bothered. Different. There was a stillness in the woman that did not match the insult she had just endured. Most passengers became loud after humiliation, or fragile, or desperate to explain themselves. Evelyn became quieter, more precise. Lily had seen that face before. She was almost sure of it, Not on a passenger profile, not in the groups. Somewhere else. A business article. A news clip. A photo beside a headline about an acquisition, or a technology company, or a woman who had changed an industry without asking permission first. The jet lifted from the runway. The cabin tilted back. No one spoke. At the front, Angela smiled like the evening had been saved. At the back, Evelyn watched the city lights fall away beneath the clouds. And Lily Morgan, 25 years old, with 14 months at Crestfield, and a conscience she had not yet learned how to silence, reached slowly for the company tablet. Lily waited until Angela disappeared behind the galley curtain. Then she unlocked the company tablet with a thumb that would not stop trembling. The screen glowed pale blue against her face. Passenger manifest, crew notes, catering requests, seating chart. She had opened those pages 100 times before and never felt afraid of them. Tonight, the tablet felt heavier than it should. She tapped the manifest. Crestfield Charter 781, Harrington Field to Teterboro, 4 passengers, Thomas Reed. Seat 1B, Martin and Diane Keller. Seats 2A and 2B. Evelyn Carter. Seat 3A. Lily stared at the name, Evelyn Carter. There was a small gold flag beside it. Fee profile linked. Her mouth went dry. She tapped the flag. The satellite connection lagged. A gray wheel spun and spun while the jet cut through storm clouds. Lily looked up. Angela was laughing softly near the front of the cabin, leaning toward Thomas as she refreshed his drink. Evelyn remained at the rear, still as stone, her face turned toward the window. The profile loaded. Lily read the first line. Then she read it again. Evelyn Carter, founder and chief executive officer of Carter Meridian Technologies. Strategic investor. Verified private equity contact. Restricted board level visibility. Lily stopped breathing for a second. She knew that company. Everyone in business news knew it. Carter Meridian had built the logistics software that half the shipping world quietly depended on. Evelyn Carter had been on magazine covers, though never smiling much in them. She was known for buying stakes in struggling companies, fixing what executives were too proud to admit was broken, and leaving them stronger than she found them. Lily scrolled lower. Crestfield Aviation Group, current equity exposure, 11% through North Star Bridge Holdings. Her hand tightened around the tablet. 11%. Not a passenger with a lucky upgrade. Not a woman out of place. A major shareholder. Then she saw the note marked confidential, pending rescue investment, $240 million. Final signing scheduled for 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Contact through Marcus Hale, counsel for North Star Bridge Holdings. Lily sat back against the galley wall. The engines hummed. Glassware trembled faintly in its cabinet. Her own pulse beat loud in her ears. Angela had not slapped a nobody. Angela had slapped the woman who was about to save Crestfield. Lily looked toward the cockpit door. She knew what she had to do. Knowing did not make it easy. In 14 months at Crestfield, she had learned the real rules under the official ones. Do not embarrass senior crew. Do not question judgment in front of passengers. Do not create paperwork that makes management ask why training failed. Angela was protected by reputation, seniority, and the quiet loyalty of men who liked employees who made trouble disappear. But some trouble was not meant to disappear. Some trouble was truth asking for a witness. Lily rose and walked to the cockpit door. Her steps were careful, but her face had gone pale. She knocked twice. Captain Whitman opened the door halfway. "What is it?" His voice was clipped. He hated interruptions during climb. "Captain," Lily said softly, "I think there's something you need to know about the passenger in the back." He glanced past her, annoyed already. Angela said the situation was handled. "It wasn't handled," Lily said. "Sir, I checked the manifest. Evelyn Carter is not just a passenger. She's linked to the investor profile, North Star Bridge, the rescue transaction." Whitman's eyes narrowed. "Are you sure?" "Yes. Did Angela ask you to check that?" "No, sir." His expression hardened. "That was the wrong answer." "Lily," he said, lowering his voice, "this is not your lane. If Angela escalated a seating issue, she had a reason. Do not start building a story in your head because a passenger looks calm." Lily felt heat rise behind her eyes. She was struck. The captain went still. For a moment, she thought the word had reached him. Then he looked toward the cabin, jaw tight. I did not see that. I did. You need to be very careful with accusations like that. The warning was quiet, professional, dangerous. Lily swallowed. Yes, sir, return to service. The cockpit door closed. Lily stood there in the narrow aisle, hearing the soft click of the latch. Behind her, Angela appeared with a tray in hand. What were you doing? Angela asked. Lily turned. Her voice almost failed, but she held it. I know who she is. Angela's eyes flicked once toward the back of the cabin, then back to Lily. You know nothing. She's Evelyn Carter. Angela's mouth curved, but there was no humor in it. A woman like Evelyn Carter does not board in a wet hoodie with a broken suitcase. Lily said nothing. Angela stepped closer. Her perfume was sharp, her smile was thin. Let this go, Angela whispered. Do not go looking for trouble that is not yours. Lily looked past her. At the rear window, Evelyn sat in silence while the city lights disappeared beneath a black sheet of cloud. For the first time that night, Lily understood something that frightened her. The trouble was already here, and it belonged to everyone. Evelyn did not open her laptop during the flight. She did not call anyone while Angela could see her. She sat in the last row with her hands folded and let the cabin reveal itself. That was what she had always done best. Listen first. Move second. The jet leveled above the storm, and the ride smoothed into a low, expensive hush. Clouds pressed against the windows like dark cotton. Below them, America was a scatter of distant lights. Above them, the cabin glowed amber and gold, soft enough to make cruelty look elegant if a person was not paying attention. Evelyn was paying attention. She watched Angela serve Thomas Reed roasted almonds in a ceramic bowl with silver tongs. She watched Angela lean close when he spoke, nodding as if every careless word deserved careful attention. She watched Martin Keller receive a warm towel folded into a square. She watched Diane Keller get a blanket tucked over her knees, with a tenderness that might have been beautiful in a different room. Then Angela came to the back. She placed a sealed packet of crackers on Evelyn's armrest. No plate, no napkin, no eye contact. Snack service, Angela said. Evelyn looked at the crackers, then at Angela. Is that the business class service? Angela's smile did not move. It's what we have available. From the front, Thomas turned in his seat. Maybe she's more comfortable with that. His wife was not there. His conscience was not either. Diane Keller closed her eyes for a second, ashamed enough to know better, not brave enough to do better. Her husband shifted in his seat and said nothing. Silence filled the gaps where decency should have stood. Angela walked away. Evelyn left the crackers untouched. She turned back to the window, but her mind was not on the sky. It was on a small apartment in Baltimore years ago, where her mother came home with her hands raw from hospital laundry chemicals and still asked Evelyn whether her math homework was done. It was on a guidance counselor who told her engineering programs were difficult for girls like her, then blinked when she earned a full scholarship. It was on conference rooms where men repeated her ideas 10 minutes later and watched them suddenly become brilliant. She had survived all of it. Not because it did not hurt, because she learned how to carry hurt without letting it choose her next move. That was the part people rarely understood. Restraint was not weakness. Restraint was discipline. It was power with its hand on the door, waiting until the right moment to enter. Near the galley, Lily watched Evelyn stare out the window. The tablet was hidden under a folded service cloth, but its screen still burned in Lily's mind. $240 million. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. North Star Bridge Holdings. She replayed the captain's words. This is not your lane. Lily had heard versions of that her whole life. At school, at church, in her first job at a hotel front desk. Don't make trouble. Don't get involved. Don't speak unless you are sure it will help you. But the older she got, the more she wondered what kind of person those rules were building. Angela brushed past her. Refill 1B. Lily did not move. Angela turned. Did you hear me? Yes, Lily said. Then do it. Lily picked up the whiskey bottle. Her hand was steady now. That scared her more than the trembling had. When she reached Thomas, he lifted his glass without looking at her. About time. She poured half an inch. He leaned closer. Your senior girl handled that pretty well. You can't let people bully their way into places. Lily looked at him. Really looked. His red face, his wet eyes, the smug curve of his mouth. A man so certain of the world's shape that he had never once checked whether it had crushed someone beneath him. She had a valid seat, Lily said. Thomas blinked. Excuse me? Lily set the bottle back on the tray. Nothing, sir, but it was not nothing. Angela saw the exchange. Her eyes hardened. The cabin lights dimmed for descent, and the seatbelt sign chimed. The sound was soft, ordinary, almost gentle. But inside Lily, something had shifted past the point of return. At the rear of the cabin, Evelyn finally reached into her hoodie pocket and took out her phone. No drama, no raised voice. Just a screen lighting her face in the dark. She opened a message thread with Marcus Hale, her lead counsel. Her thumb hovered for 1 second. Then she typed 4 words. Pull the offer now. She looked at the message. Then she sent it. The jet dipped through the clouds toward New Jersey. Rain returned against the windows. The runway lights appeared below, bright and orderly, like a path someone else had prepared. Evelyn slipped the phone back into her pocket. By the time the wheels touched ground, the decision had already left the aircraft. And there was no bringing it back. The jet landed at Teterboro just before midnight, its tires hissing against the wet runway. No one clapped. No one spoke. The cabin stayed wrapped in the kind of silence people choose when they know they have witnessed something ugly, and would rather pretend it was only uncomfortable. Angela stood by the forward door as the stairs unfolded into the rain. She thanked Thomas Reed by name. Mr. Reed, we appreciate you flying with Crestfield. Thomas gave her a loose grin. Always a pleasure when the crew knows how to keep order. Angela smiled. Behind him, Martin and Diane Keller stepped out carefully. Diane glanced once toward the back of the cabin. Her face had softened with regret, but regret without action was only decoration. She said nothing. Then Evelyn approached. Angela did not move aside at first. The 2 women faced each other under the small pool of light near the exit. Rain struck the open doorway. Cold air entered the cabin and lifted the edge of Evelyn's hood. For 1 second, Angela seemed ready to say something. Maybe a warning. Maybe another command. Maybe the beginning of an apology that her pride could not carry all the way to her mouth. Instead, she looked through Evelyn. Watch your step, she said, flatly. Evelyn looked at her cheek, then at Angela's eyes. I always do, she said. Then she walked down the stairs into the rain. Her driver was waiting near the private terminal in a black Lincoln. He was a retired state trooper named Henry Bell, 70 years old, steady as an oak, and one of the few people Evelyn trusted to ask questions, only when questions mattered. When he saw her face, his hand tightened on the car door. Miss Carter, I'm all right, Henry. His eyes did not leave the mark on her cheek. That doesn't look all right. No, she said quietly. It doesn't. He opened the rear door. Evelyn got in, set her carry-on beside her, and waited until the door closed. The car smelled faintly of leather and coffee. Rain tapped softly on the roof. For the first time since the slap, she let her shoulders lower. Not collapse. Lower. There was a difference. She pulled out her phone. Marcus Hale had already replied. Understood. Preparing withdrawal notice. Confirm full termination? Evelyn looked through the rain-streaked window at the glowing terminal. Inside that building, Crestfield employees would reset the cabin, refill the bar, wipe the armrests, and try to remove every visible trace of what had happened. But they could not wipe away the decision already moving through lawyers, servers, and sleeping phones. She typed back, full termination, no explanation. Then she called Joanne Ellis. Joanne answered on the first ring. She always did, whether it was noon or midnight. Evelyn, cancel the 9 o'clock signing. There was half a breath of silence. Not confusion. Calculation. All of it? All of it. Marcus is sending formal notice by 3 in the morning. Standard language. No comment. Do you want the board informed before release? No. Let them read it like everyone else. Joanne's voice softened. Are you hurt? Evelyn closed her eyes. The question reached deeper than she expected. A little. Do you need a doctor? No, do you need me? Evelyn opened her eyes. The city lights blurred beyond the glass. Not yet? All right, Joanne said. I'll stay up. Evelyn ended the call and sat in the quiet. Henry did not pull away immediately. He watched her in the rearview mirror, not staring, just present. "My mother used to say," he said carefully, "a person can show you who they are in a minute, but what you do after can show the world who you are." Evelyn looked up. Henry met her eyes in the mirror. "She was right," Evelyn said. Back on the aircraft, Lily stood alone in the galley while ground crew moved around her. Angela was at the front, joking with a maintenance tech, as if the night had ended normally. It had not. Lily opened the tablet again. Her fingers moved faster this time. Incident report. Passenger name, Evelyn Carter. Seat, assigned 3A seat occupied. Rear cabin after crew instruction. Physical contact. Open-handed strike by senior flight attendant Angela Brooks. Witnesses. Crew member Lily Morgan. Passenger Thomas Reed. Passengers Martin and Diane Keller. Cabin camera forward right. Possible passenger phone recording. She paused at the description field. Her heart pounded. Then she wrote everything. Not almost everything. Everything. The verification delay. The false weight distribution excuse. The slap. The captain's refusal to review. Angela's warning to let it go. At the bottom, the system asked for recipients. Lily selected Director of Passenger Services, Human Resources, Legal, Executive Office. Her thumb hovered over send. She thought of Evelyn in the back row. Hands folded, cheek red. Silent but not broken. Lily pressed send. The message left at 12:34 in the morning. And with that small click, another decision entered the dark. Robert Hayes woke to the sound of his phone vibrating against the glass top of his nightstand. At first, he ignored it. Chief executive officers learned to sleep through noise when noise was constant. Earnings questions, union concerns, maintenance delays, board pressure. For months, Crestfield Aviation had lived on the edge of bad news, and Robert had trained himself not to treat every alert like a fire. Then the phone vibrated again, and again. He opened his eyes. The bedroom's dark, except for the blue glow of the screen. His wife did not move beside him. Robert reached over, squinting, annoyed before he was awake enough to be afraid. The notification was from Marcus Hale's law firm. His stomach tightened. He sat up. Anything from that office mattered. The signing with North Star Bridge was scheduled for 9 o'clock that morning. $240 million in rescue capital. Enough to keep Crestfield out of a forced asset sale. Enough to calm lenders. Enough to buy the company time it did not deserve but desperately needed. Robert opened the email. He read the first line. Then he read it again. North Star Bridge Holdings hereby withdraws from the proposed investment transaction with Crestfield Aviation Group. Effective immediately. No further comment. No explanation. No room. Robert turned on the lamp. The warm light hit his face and made him look older than 56. He read the email a third time, slower, as if the words might rearrange themselves if treated with enough care. They did not. His hand went cold around the phone. "No," he whispered. His wife stirred. "Robert?" He did not answer. He was already scrolling. Below the withdrawal notice sat another email, marked urgent, forwarded from his executive assistant at 12:34 in the morning. Subject line: Incident report involving North Star affiliated passenger. Robert opened it. At first, he expected a service complaint, a rude comment, a mishandled seat, something unpleasant but containable. Airline survived complaints. Executives apologized. Lawyers shaped language. Public relations softened edges. Then he saw the name, Evelyn Carter. He sat completely still. His eyes moved down the report. Verification delay, seat reassignment, derogatory passenger comment, senior flight attendant physical contact, open-handed strike, captain declined review, passenger removed from assigned service position to rear cabin. Robert stopped at one sentence. The passenger stated, "You just made the most expensive mistake of your career." The room seemed to tilt. His wife sat up now. What happened? Robert's mouth opened, but no sound came out, because he understood before he wanted to understand. Crestfield had not lost an investor in a vacuum. Crestfield had insulted her, questioned her, hit her, then sent her into the rain like a woman who should be grateful they let her fly at all. He called board chair Margaret Sloan at 3:17 in the morning. She answered with a voice thick from sleep. "This better be real." "It is," Robert said. "What?" North Star pulled out. Silence. Then the sound of a bedside lamp clicking on. Why? Robert closed his eyes. Because one of our senior attendants assaulted Evelyn Carter on a charter tonight. Another silence. This one had no sleep in it. Say that again. Robert did. By 4 o'clock, Crestfield's general counsel was on the line. By 4:20, investor relations joined. By 5, 3 board members had been pulled into a video call, faces pale in little squares, each one trying to look calm and failing. No one shouted at first. That came later. The first stage was disbelief. Are we sure it was her? The manifest confirms it. Was there video? We're pulling it. Who knew? No one who mattered, apparently. Margaret leaned toward her camera. Her gray hair was perfect even at dawn, but her eyes were hard. Robert, the market opens in a few hours. If this leaks before we have a statement, we are exposed. As if the word leak had summoned it, Robert's assistant sent a message. Financial news inquiry. Asking about reported investor withdrawal. Robert stared at it. The room went silent again. The story was already outside the building. At 7:03, a brief item appeared on a financial newswire. Crestfield Aviation faces uncertainty after reported investor withdrawal ahead of planned restructuring deal. It was only a few paragraphs. Plain language. No drama. But money did not need drama to panic. By 7:30, analysts were calling. By 8, lenders were asking whether the rescue package was still active. By 8:45, employees in Crestfield offices were whispering near coffee machines, pretending not to refresh their phones. At 9:30, the market opened. Crestfield stock dropped. Fast. First 5%, then 8, then 14. Robert watched the red line fall on the conference room screen and felt every inch of the company's polished image peel away. This was not just about money anymore. It was about what money had uncovered. A company could print values on posters. It could train smiles. It could write dignity into customer service manuals. But one cabin, one slap, one quiet woman in a hoodie had revealed the truth beneath the language. And truth, once seen, was expensive. By noon, the boardroom on the 38th floor felt less like a place of leadership and more like a courtroom without a judge. Robert Hayes sat at the head of the table, but no one looked to him for answers anymore. The glass walls showed the city shining beneath a pale winter sun. Inside, every face was tight. Every phone was face down. Every person in that room understood that Crestfield had entered the kind of crisis that did not stay inside a company. Margaret Sloan stood near the screen with both arms folded. Show the footage. The general counsel, Alan Pierce, hesitated. He had spent his entire career trying to keep damaging things from being seen by people who could punish them. Now the people who could punish them were in the room. He clicked play. The cabin camera opened on the forward section of the jet. No sound at first. Just movement. Angela at the entrance. Evelyn stepping in with her hood damp from rain. Thomas Reed watching with his whiskey glass already in hand. Robert leaned forward. No one spoke. The footage showed Evelyn offering her phone. Angela studying it too long. Evelyn waiting. Thomas turning in his seat, mouth moving in a comment they could not hear, but did not need to hear. The shape of contempt was recognizable even without audio. Then the second clip loaded. The cabin audio came through thin but clear. "My seat's 3A, Evelyn said. Angela's voice followed. "I would strongly suggest you not make this difficult." Margaret closed her eyes briefly. Robert felt his throat tighten. On the screen, Evelyn stood still. She did not raise her hands. She did not step into Angela's space. She simply repeated herself. "My seat is 3A. Then Angela struck her. The sound filled the boardroom, a flat crack. Someone at the table whispered, "Jesus." Robert looked down at his hands. They were clasped so tightly that his knuckles had gone white. The footage kept playing. Evelyn straightened her glasses. Angela pointed toward the back. Lily stood frozen near the galley. Thomas lifted his glass. The video ended. For a moment, the only sound was the low hum of the air conditioner. Margaret turned to Robert. "What have we done?" No one corrected the word "we." That was the terrible part. Angela's hand had delivered the slap, but a culture had lifted it. A captain had ignored it. A passenger had encouraged it. Bystanders had allowed it. Executives had built a system where the junior attendant who told the truth was the only one afraid. Alan cleared his throat. We need immediate containment. Angela Brooks should be suspended pending investigation. Captain Whitman as well. Lily Morgan must be protected from retaliation. We should issue a statement acknowledging a serious service incident. Serious service incident? Margaret snapped. Alan, she was assaulted. His face tightened. I'm speaking legally. I'm speaking plainly. Robert's phone buzzed again. Another alert. Crestfield down 21%. He turned the screen over. Across town, Angela Brooks arrived at Crestfield headquarters in full uniform. She had received the message at 9:15, right after discovering her company phone had been remotely locked. At first, she thought it was a system error. Then her email stopped working. Then crew scheduling vanished from her app. By the time she reached the lobby, her confidence had begun to thin around the edges. The security guard at reception was a man she had passed for years without learning his name. Ms. Brooks, he said quietly. I need your blinked. Excuse me? I need your access badge. I'm here for a meeting. Yes, Mom, badge first. There was no anger in his voice. No judgment. That made it worse. She removed the badge from her blazer and placed it on the desk as if surrendering something heavier than plastic. Human Resources was waiting in a small room on the second floor. 2 women from HR, 1 attorney. A pitcher of water, no cups poured. Angela sat down. I assume this is about the passenger complaint, she said. The attorney opened a folder. It is about an incident aboard Crestfield Charter 781. Angela folded her hands. The passenger was non-compliant. I maintained order in the cabin. The older HR woman, Denise Miller, watched her with tired eyes. She had heard that sentence in many forms across many years. Maintained order, followed protocol, managed a difficult person. Words people used when they did not want to say harm. The attorney sliced a still image across the table. Angela looked down. It was her hand against Evelyn Carter's face. Her own mouth was open. Evelyn's glasses were shifting. Lily was visible in the background, horrified. For the first time since the slap, Angela had no room left to explain the moment away. Her face changed, not into regret, not yet, into recognition. The world she thought would protect her had stepped aside, and she was standing alone in what she had done. By mid-afternoon, the story no longer belonged to Crestfield. It belonged to everyone with a phone. The first clip appeared just after lunch. It was short, shaky, filmed from behind Thomas Reed's shoulder by Diane Keller, who had recorded without understanding what she was capturing. The video showed Angela standing over Evelyn. It showed Evelyn calm. It showed the slap. The sound was clear. That was what made people stop scrolling. One crack of skin against skin inside a cabin built for comfort. Within minutes, the clip moved from one platform to another. A retired schoolteacher in Ohio shared it with the words, "This is what disrespect looks like, when it thinks no one important is watching." A pastor in Georgia posted, "Respect should not depend on a person's bank account." A former airline employee wrote a long thread about how quiet bias hides behind the word policy. By 2 o'clock, the hashtags had formed. By 3, national outlets were calling. By 4, Crestfield's largest sponsor paused its marketing partnership pending review. The phrase sounded gentle. It was not gentle. In corporate language, pending review was often the hallway before goodbye. Inside Crestfield headquarters, the communications team sat around a long table with half-eaten sandwiches no one had touched. Robert Hayes stood by the window, tie loosened, phone in hand. Every draft statement sounded too small. We are aware of an incident. Too cold. We take these allegations seriously. Too late. This does not reflect our values. Margaret Sloan read that line and laughed once, without humor. If it did not reflect our values, it would not have happened so easily. No one answered. Downstairs, Angela Brooks left the building through a side exit after being placed on administrative suspension. She wore sunglasses, though the sky was cloudy. A reporter shouted her name from across the sidewalk. "Ms. Brooks, did you strike Evelyn Carter?" Angela kept walking. Her attorney had told her not to speak. For once, she obeyed. But the silence did not protect her. Cameras followed her to the curb. A black sedan pulled up. She climbed in, hands shaking so badly she could barely close the door. For the first time that day, She understood that public shame did not feel like power leaving all at once. It felt like doors locking one by one. Across the city, Evelyn sat in her office with the television muted. Her cheek was less red now, but the mark had not vanished. Marcus Hale stood near the conference table, reading updates from his phone. Joanne placed a cup of coffee beside Evelyn and waited. Every network wants a statement, Marcus said. Several want an interview. Financial press, civil rights outlets, morning shows, evening shows. Evelyn watched footage of herself in the cabin replay on silent loop. A woman in a hoodie, a hand raised against her. Other people watching. How many times have you seen it? Joanne asked gently. Enough. Marcus lowered his phone. You do not owe anyone your pain on camera. I know. And you do not have to become a symbol by dinner. Evelyn looked at him then. Marcus, I was a symbol before dinner. I just didn't choose it. The room went quiet. That was the burden most people missed. When harm became public, the harmed person was expected to explain it, refine it, make it useful, make it clean enough for strangers to discuss over coffee. Evelyn knew the pattern. She had seen it happen to others. She had watched victims become educators before they had time to breathe. Joanne sat beside her, then chose the terms. Evelyn nodded slowly. At 4:30, Sylvia Price, her publicist, joined by video from her downtown office, calm, silver-haired, precise. A woman who had guided people through scandals, grief, elections, and public reckonings without ever raising her voice. Say nothing tonight, Sylvia advised. Let the facts speak first. The footage is clear. The withdrawal is clear. Public opinion is organizing itself without your help. Marcus agreed. Joanne agreed. Evelyn did not answer immediately. She thought of Lily, the young attendant who had seen something wrong and decided the truth was worth the risk. She thought of Diane Keller, who had recorded but not spoken. She thought of Thomas Reed, whose laughter still sat in the air of that cabin like smoke. Then she thought of every person who had been humiliated with no camera present, no billionaire status, no legal team, no stock price falling in response. I'll speak tomorrow, Evelyn said. Not to defend myself, not to perform outrage, to name the thing correctly. Sylvia leaned closer to the screen. What thing? Evelyn looked back at the muted television. On screen, Angela's hand rose again. The belief, Evelyn said, that respect is something people have to qualify for. Marcus stopped typing. Joanne's eyes softened. Outside Evelyn's office window, the late afternoon sun struck the buildings and turned their glass faces gold. The world was moving fast now, but Evelyn was not rushing. She had learned a long time ago that power used carefully could cut deeper than anger, and tomorrow she would use it. Evelyn walked into the studio the next afternoon without an entourage. No dramatic entrance, no designer armor. Just a dark blazer, wire rim glasses, and the same calm that had unsettled everyone on that jet. The anchor, Christine Porter, had interviewed senators, founders, and generals. But when Evelyn sat across from her, Christine noticed something different. Evelyn did not look like a woman trying to win a room. She looked like a woman who had already decided what truth would cost. The cameras came on. Christine began gently. Ms. Carter, millions of people have now seen the video. What do you want them to understand? Evelyn paused. The studio lights reflected in her glasses. Her hands rested still in her lap. The slap is not the whole story, she said. The slap is only the part that became visible. Christine did not interrupt. Evelyn continued. Before that, there was the look, the delay, the suspicion, the decision that I had to prove I belonged somewhere I had already paid to be. That is what people need to Disrespect rarely begins with the loudest act. It begins when someone decides another human being is worth less. Across the country, people stopped what they were doing. In living rooms, in break rooms, in airport lounges, on phones held close in tired hands. At Crestfield headquarters, Robert Hayes watched from a conference room where the blinds were half closed. Margaret Sloan stood behind him with her arms crossed. No one spoke. Will you reconsider your investment if Crestfield removes the employees involved? No, Evelyn said. One word, clean. Final. Robert closed his eyes. Evelyn's voice stayed steady. This was never about one employee. One employee acted, others watched. A captain ignored a report. A company culture made a junior attendant afraid to tell the truth. That is not a personnel issue. That is a system issue. The next morning, Robert resigned. His letter used careful language, personal reflection, family priorities, the need for new leadership. Nobody believed the soft words. They did not need to. Crestfield announced an outside investigation, suspended Angela Brooks and Captain Whitman pending termination review, and publicly confirmed that Lily Morgan would be protected as a reporting witness. Angela never returned to the cabin. She watched the interview alone from her apartment, sitting on the edge of her couch with the lights off. When Evelyn said respect should not require proof of wealth, Angela looked down at her own hands. Those hands had served champagne with grace. Those hands had straightened scarves and poured coffee and offered blankets. Those hands had also struck a woman who had done nothing except insist on being treated like a paying passenger. For the first time, Angela did not ask what Evelyn had cost her. She asked what kind of person she had become before Evelyn ever boarded that plane. Weeks later, Evelyn signed a new investment agreement with Alderstone Air, a smaller regional carrier that had spent years building a reputation for patient, decent service. Her money came with conditions: independent reporting channels, passenger dignity audits, training that went beyond slogans, executive bonuses tied to real service outcomes, not polished surveys. At the signing table, Lily Morgan sat near the end, nervous, in a navy dress she had bought for the occasion. Evelyn had offered her a role on the passenger experience team. "You told the truth when it could have cost you," Evelyn said. Lily looked down, emotional. "I should have spoken sooner." "Maybe," Evelyn said softly. "But you spoke. Do not let regret erase courage." That was the kind of justice Evelyn believed in. Not revenge dressed up as victory. Not public ruin for the pleasure of watching someone fall. Real justice had to build something after it exposed what was broken. Months later, at a community mentorship center in Baltimore, Evelyn stood before a room full of students. Some wore hoodies. Some wore uniforms from after-school jobs. Some sat with their arms crossed, pretending not to care while listening to every word. Evelyn looked at them and smiled faintly. "Power," she said, "is not always loud. Sometimes it is staying calm when the room misreads you. Sometimes it is telling the truth when silence would be safer. And sometimes it is using what you have built to make sure the next person is treated better than you were." The room stood for her. Evelyn did not linger in the applause. She never had. Outside, the evening light moved across Baltimore brick and glass. Joanne waited by the car with Evelyn's coat and a coffee at the exact temperature she liked. Henry opened the door. Before getting in, Evelyn looked back at the building. She thought of her mother's tired hands, of Lily's trembling report, of every person who had no camera, no lawyer, no line, and still deserved dignity. Then she stepped into the car. The world had not changed completely. It never does in one day. But something had been named, something had been seen, and once people see clearly, forgetting becomes harder. So if this story stayed with you, tell me this. What would you have done in that cabin? Would you have stayed silent, or would you have stood up? Share your thoughts below, and remember this when you walk into any room. The person you are looking at may not need to prove their worth. You may need to prove your humanity.